Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is a privilege for me to present to this honorable House and the citizens of this great country we call Guyana my contribution to the national budget debate for fiscal 2023. Let me state at the onset that it is my intention to focus my contribution on improving the lives of every Guyanese, to highlight inconsistencies in Budget 2023 and make recommendations which should be considered on its improvement. In areas where I do not go into details, I'm pretty sure my colleagues who are to come will deal with those issues. No responsible person would dispute the fact that indeed this is the largest budget in Guyana's history, a budget that should have catered room for equality, bridging the gaps of poverty, and embody generational wealth. But this budget does not do that, Mr. Speaker. Instead, this budget averts to address the growing economic crisis that Guyanese face on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the government side of the House who attempt to convince Guyanese that they care, constantly insulting the Guyanese intelligence and attempting to distract them with chicken feed and, of course, hogwash. Mr. Speaker, there is no substance in their arguments, and constantly they ridicule and criticize our term in government. And also, they give ball-by-ball coverage and what is to happen and who did what and what not. But Mr. Speaker, might I remind this honorable House that it is the APNU AFC who holds or who have acquired over 50% of votes in the last elections, and who should be sitting on that other side of the House. Might I remind the government that we must exercise political maturity. Every point that is made by my colleagues on this side of the House comes with substance, and we represent the people because they elected us here. The harsh reality is this, Mr. Speaker. When we look at the economy of Guyana, the World Bank, in its recent updated fact sheet on Guyana, it said that Guyanese are living under $5 US every day. That's $1,000. Mr. Speaker, that is unacceptable, especially in an oil-rich economy. Mr. Speaker, it's embarrassing to note that the PPP government have embraced autocracy and also dictatorial governance. That is not what Guyana should represent, Mr. Speaker. It is noted as well that Guyana ranks one of the lowest in terms of living conditions in this part of the world. Mr. Speaker, we have a brain drain situation. A lot of our educated young men and women are seeking employment overseas because the government cannot cater for their qualifications in this oil-rich economy. Mr. Speaker, in order to effectively address such a report we must focus on the non-oil sectors, such as economies and developing countries. It creates jobs, strengthens local economy, contributes to local infrastructure development, and cultural assets and traditions. Cannot be achieved, Mr. Speaker, because the PPP government lacks vision. And in the lauded the tourism industry, said how we have gotten an increase in visitors last year alone as compared to 2021 by 85%. He talked about the CPL cricket finals, which is coming to Guyana. But Mr. Speaker, you know what is surprising? That the tourism industry have been performing very well, but yet still this government decided not to give a proper increase in the budgetary allocation that reflects that growth. Mr. Speaker, that is disappointing. Mr. Speaker, 83.9 increase in tourism from 2021 to 2022 is a big leap. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member boasted about 3,300 rooms that will come on stream because of massive investments. Mr. Speaker, We are the #1 tourist destination, eco-tourist destination, named in 2019, and we hold a solid spot on the global market for sustainable tourism. But yet still, they decided to give the Ministry of Tourism only an increase of 7%, jumping from 2022, $6 billion to 6.5 in 2023. But Mr. Speaker, let's look at what is happening, the breakdown. In terms of the allocation, Mr. Speaker, when you look at Program Code 234, Tourism Development and Promotion, the allocation is this, Mr. Speaker. $33 million is going to capital work. Mr. Speaker, yeah, you know what that money is going to? A flagpole project at this very center here, the payment of retention and provision for a parking lot and a trestle, all right? Ms. Minister, Honorable Member, this is not enough when it comes to dealing with tourism, especially if we want to empower people. Mr. Speaker, I want to touch on a few considerations that maybe the government and the Honorable Member Ashley Singh should take into consideration. Mr. Speaker, the Training and Hospitality School, while it's a good, very good initiative, and it's welcome because we want to elevate tourism within our country. Mr. Speaker, the location might be an issue because if you look at where these huge major investments in hotel and infrastructure is coming from, it's along the coast and Georgetown. But if this project is to go to whoever, Mr. Speaker, their employees to go there to do training and then come back. The great impact of this, unless we can effectively deal with the hospitality sector. Mr. Speaker, the APNU AFC, in its greatest vision to transform this sector, created regional tourism committees with the aim of having greater inclusion and bipartisan cohesiveness geared towards regional development. These committees need funding, Mr. Speaker. I'm speaking about the regional tourism committees. Mr. Speaker, now more than ever, those committees effectively serve their region because, Mr. Speaker, we cannot product that can, with regards to the tourism, needs to be placed in all the and office so that we happening here in Georgia. These towns, to the U.S. State Department, Canada, UK, and United States citizens sector, Mr. Honorable, want to do. Mr. Speaker, I also need will come to the Honorable Member Gail Teixeira. They will what needs to go the party official investment portfolio so that we can give them when Mr. Speaker, and then very good initiative. Is what the government refused to go and sit around engage doing that housing scheme and the state around that same tons of bauxite will not get to touch if industrial honorable members. And at all, we're not. What is based on its more need to be allocated to the tourism. I also want to share with you with regards to Upper Demerara, other side of Linden has contributed Minister Dr. Ashni Singh this performance owed to. He said within the last years, the latter part, mineral workers got 0. Dr. Ashur Singh boasted about 1,000. Good. Let me tell you, Bonasika, 580 needs to turn a blind and the security need to accept in those areas, and they, Mr. Speaker, it's a. I'm not being for to deal with those issues, Mr. Speaker. I to you, Mr. Speaker, the day will come. Trusts are not being attended to. Mr. Speaker, up them rare Borbies with Borbies villages. Mr. Speaker, 3.3 $1 billion. The staff currently is dealing with more. Of the PPP, I must say to you that this year's road from Mabura to Lynn allocated sums of money to develop the Linden Highway or in that bridge, not tomorrow, not the next day. We want it now. Over $1 billion. 25 days. Couldn't Kenzie Bridge. It's because they don't care about the people. Mr. Speaker, listen to council pushing ignored area there. That community is developing Borough Road. The government in Linden Road, 1 or 2 miles in
An extent.
I move that the honourable member presentation.
Mr.
Honourable-
Speaker, could only conclude. What we're saying, we have investors. So, Mr. Speaker, in terms of infrastructure, actually saying praise and said that, you know, it's complete. Athletes and Olympians who have to train. That you care about people and athletics. One would expect Charles Ram and drainage. The Honorable $800 million to fall don't make any sense. We need part two. Just about 3 months ago, those roads were constructed. No drains, nothing. I don't know what is happening, Mr. Speaker. To ignore the need for sustainable road from Ituni to Takama and even farms 5. But families hide out to Sand Hills Road is needed, which will keep Wairuni and those areas. Road, it will be very, very, very costly. There seems to be a war on the boards and co-ops. What's happening is that the government feels less dependent. They become things for themselves. But this government wants to buckle the Guyana that we envision. Employment, unemployment in the region, and well educated. We talk about, if you look at this, nobody wants to go and work. We're just focusing on part-time jobs, but really it's primarily this. So at this here, torture doctors, we have by state is this, while we bring Cuban nurses, have the oil has been the well, Mr. Speaker, the increase of of boundaries within the municipalities. Part-time jobs cannot be the solution. More than ever, money does not become dependent on Mr. Speaker, food security. I am convinced all of us must be committed to the social join together